Being a Wednesday, today we have the Financial Clinic, and we'll be getting into that shortly. And I have a question for you even as we prepare for our discussion for today. The question is, do you think it's wise for a family to have one breadwinner with one source of income? Do you think it's wise for a family to have one breadwinner with only one source of income? Share your thoughts with me on 20316 for SMS. WhatsApp is 0786 316 316. And then shortly we'll get into our discussion for today. But before then, let's take a look at the local dailies. What's making headlines today? Big story, Daily Nation. It's all about the exams, KCSE. Against all odds, it says not even illness, disability, teacher shortage, or tough conditions could stop them. We made it. While the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted learning for all students, these candidates had other obstacles stacked against them, but they still posted sterling results to earn top rankings in the country. Here are their stories of hard work, discipline, resilience, and sheer determination. And there's a picture, there are pictures rather, of these individuals. Page 2 and page 3 carry their stories, get to read about the obstacles they had to contend with, and they still made it and did a good job. Quite a bit on the KCSE results 2020, concern over poor showing by 7 counties. You can take a look at that. Also, return of grade A that Matiang'i killed. Okay, find out more about that. Candidates who brought their A game to KCSE wamebandikwa kwa magazeti, my friend. You can take a look at that. There's also a list of the top schools, KCSE 2020. Sometimes I wonder, and I know it's good to celebrate, and I'm not downplaying the celebrating of those who've done well, but sometimes, let me not go into that direction. On matters politics, all eyes on Uhuru in road to referendum as Senate passes BBI. Resilience by DP's camp to the bill easily crushed by Uhuru and Raila's allies. My friend, mambo ya BBI ndio hiyo inaendelea. Also find out why Mwaura lost his Senate seat. Tuangalie mambo mengine. There's quite a bit from the opinions. I'm trying to get to the center pages to find out what's making headlines huku katikati. From the counties, trackers issue demands before using the port at Lamu. Find out what demands they're issuing. Today we have several pullouts. The first one is motoring, and sampling quite a number of cars here. Which would you recommend? You can take a look at that if motoring is your thing. There's parenting. Delivered from alcoholism, Sammy Mwangi's bruising 29-year battle for sobriety. Take a look at this story. Beautiful picture of this gentleman holding his daughter. I'm telling you, what a story. You need to read it. My ex-husband raped our daughter. What do you do after that? Find out what Pastor Philip Kitoto has to say about that question on the parenting pullout. And then taking a look at the back pages, Kenya stops flights to Somalia. In fresh row, it says Somalia had recently announced resumption of normal relations after it cut ties in December. But things are not looking that good. In sport, Safari Rally saves hotel workers' jobs. Find out why. And then resumption of top flight league remains unclear. Those are some of the key stories you will find in the local dailies today. Grab a copy, keep yourself informed on what's happening both locally and internationally. In a short while, we'll get into a conversation for today. Today on the Financial Clinic. I keep thinking relationship clinic. Financial Clinic, we're going to be looking at what happens when the breadwinner loses their life or they become incapacitated. How do you deal with such a situation? So the question I'm asking you this morning is, do you think it's wise for a family to have one breadwinner with only one source of income? 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. Kama kawaida, bench tumeweka hapo nje, tumesanitize na tumeweka stickers, mkae 1.5 meters apart na mkuja na maswali. We are ready to go as we talk about, those financial issues that get you when you're not prepared. What happens when the breadwinner dies or they are incapacitated, they can't work anymore? How do you handle a situation like that? My question for today is, do you think it's wise to have one breadwinner with only one source of income? Share your thoughts with me. This morning, we are glad to be joined by Pauline Wairimo. Pauline Wairimo is a financial coach. She is also the CEO and founder of Debt Management Solutions. Pauline, karibu sana.
Asante sana, Pastor.
It's good to have you. We're excited. we can't wait to hear what you have to say about this discussion. So I'll throw the same question I'm asking people to you as we kick off into this topic. Is it wise for a family to have one breadwinner with only one source of income?
Absolutely no, not anymore, because it's no longer sustainable. We'd be lying to ourselves.
In fact, there's somebody who said COVID has taught us that that is not wise.
In my view, I think even before COVID, honestly, these are hard economic times, and COVID has just made it worse, because just the same way two heads are better than one, two incomes are better than one.
But sometimes it's hard to get to that place where you have two incomes. We keep saying jobs are scarce, you know, it's hard.
You know, the truth is, you could actually have two incomes, one maybe formal and one informal. And what we probably didn't think through before COVID especially, is that you could even be this one person earning two incomes, one from a formal job, another one maybe from your talent, so you're monetizing it. Those are two incomes, which are still better than one.
Okay, so what happens when you find yourself in the situation we are describing today? The breadwinner has passed on. They were the sole breadwinner of the family, and you're left, maybe even have children. What do you do? How do you pick up the pieces from there?
In the unfortunate situation that you just described, in my view, the thing is to first just ask yourself this question. How would I have wanted it to look like? Okay, so you need to have the end in mind. Before this person, your spouse, maybe the breadwinner, passed on, what had you actually envisaged that your life would look like? So you have the end in mind. After that, Pastor, I think it's important that you grieve.
Okay.
Many of us don't take time to actually process. You need to win yourself out of that. Why? Because when that happens, you get into a panic mode.
Definitely.
You get sad, everybody surrounding you is teaching you, telling you, kuna walimu wengi at that time. But stop and grieve, go through the process. After that, you can't be there for too long. You cannot grieve forever. And I'm not saying that there's a period for you to grieve, the loss. Everybody does it in their own way. So pick up yourself. So that's how I would start the process if it was me who found myself in that situation.
I'm even wondering about the grieving process, because I'm trying to imagine if I did find myself in that situation, would I even have time to grieve, or would I be overcome with anxiety and worry because what will happen to these children? I don't have a job. What we were depending on is gone. So I'm just wondering, will I even be thinking about the grieving process, or will I be in a place where I'm so confused and anxious because I don't know what tomorrow holds? And how do you even begin from there?
It's normal to feel what you've just described as a human being, the confusion, the pain, the anger. But I'm saying that please go through those motions. You have to internalize everything, however long it takes you. Because if you don't go through that process, then you're bound to make very serious mistakes or decisions based on the panic. So I know it's difficult to say that stop, take time to think through this and take stock of what you are going through. And earlier on I said, maybe the best place to begin is, what if this didn't happen? What would have, what would we have looked like? And of course, in the midst of this confusion, it's really hard. But you need to do that so that you go to the next step, which we are going to call your reality.
Okay.
So the person has passed on. Maybe the person is now incapacitated. That's your current reality.
So how do you deal with this reality? Because this reality is harsh. This reality is not welcoming. This reality, in fact, I don't even want to deal with this reality. If I can run away from this reality, even the better. So where do I begin when I'm dealing with this reality?
Acceptance. Acceptance is a key thing. Once you've grieved, once you've internalized, once you've cried all you could, cursed all you could, just ask yourself, so this is my reality. Where am I now? You know, what are we? We are a family who now have no income at all. Maybe now only one income left. That's your reality. And everybody else around you must walk with you this journey. Don't live a lie. Don't put a face. I'm assuming if it's a family situation, you have children.
Yes.
You know, you have dependents who are your siblings, your family. You've got to face it together. And this is probably the best part to start with this whole thing. Because many of us don't want to confront this. And by the way, it's also really not easy. It's another whole ball game on its own.
Yeah.
It's another process. So tell yourself, Pauline, you're no longer able to live in an XYZ estate. Maybe the children can no longer go to XYZ school. I can't afford to drive 2 cars because we can't afford to fuel. So what is your reality? Maybe, for example, you had a house help who had a house help, we call them housekeepers, and we have a nanny, you know, people have those too. So the reality is that you may now no longer afford those.
Yeah.
So sit down and face your current situation. Facing here means also processing, Pastor. Talking to yourself, talking to other people. I can guarantee you this will be your ticket to getting through this whole thing. Remember, it's still a journey.
Yeah.
No time limits, so don't be too harsh. And walimu pia watakuwa wengi, nani wengi tu as you continue in this process.
Yeah, we live in a generation nowadays where everybody is an expert of everything. I mean, you will not lack people to tell you what you need to do, and they have never gone through that kind of a situation. I'm just wondering, why is it important to accept your reality? From what you're saying, it's almost like I'm taking stock. This is how life was, but now this is not there. So it means I can't continue like that. Why is that important? Because
you're your best savior. I know there's God in heaven who will continue taking care of you, that you're alive. Really, that's a miracle in itself and your family. But the truth is, this is the truth. The truth is, that is the beginning of your overcoming. Your first question is, how do we deal? This is where you begin dealing with it. Once you've accepted, once you've taken stock, I think you're at a good place to decide what next. So I was going to suggest that the next step after that is to say, so what are my options? Honestly, this has happened, right?
Yeah.
What are my options?
Before we even get to the options, Pauline, I'm just wondering, if I don't go through this process that you're describing, could the tendency be to be in a place of denial so that I still want to continue living the way we were living, and in doing so, I'm accruing, I'm either getting into debt or I'm making our financial situation even worse than it was when we found ourselves in this position?
Kitaumana hapo mbele. Kitaumana ndugu.
Yes.
Because you see, as we said earlier on, uko na hizo emotions, you've not internalized, you're still grieving, maybe everyone is in shock.
Yeah.
There's pressure from outside, the people, maybe your spouse or your partner or the breadwinner used to support, they're still having the same expectations.
Exactly.
So uspowaita uwaeleze that people, this is where now really things are. Me, I can no longer. So kwa hivyo mutajipanga, or now I have to deal with this. Kitaumana mbele. So you'll make an already worse situation get even worse. And we are human. We are human. You said we'd like to live in denial. Yes. Who would want to downgrade? I mean, who would want to be looked at like a warrior person anymore? Because definitely. Remember, there's societal pressure, there's peer pressure, there's also where you yourself are thinking, this is what people think about me, so I should maintain it. So for me, I think as from an expert point of view, please just stop. Stop and take stock. Stop and ask yourself, what are my options? And by the way, you will not do this alone. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So at the end, we'll talk about that. You probably just need help to go through all this.
Okay. Shortly, we'll talk about, I have two friends who went through different experiences. First friend, the father died, and the family came and took everything. Everything. They were thrown into the streets, lived in the streets for 3 years. There's another friend of mine, the dad passed on, and the mom was so wise that before she even told the relatives that mzee ameenda, she secured all the property they have. She made sure she knows where every document is, and she hid every document. And the moment she announced, mzee has gone, the family was in their home. Not saying pole, ransacking documents in the bedroom, trying to see where are the deeds for this and that and that. And so how do you deal with that situation? Maybe the breadwinner is gone, yes, but you had property. What do you need to do? Because people can be very mischievous, and people do a lot of bad things in situations like that, especially if it is the husband who's passed on and the wife didn't have a job, she was just staying at home. People love to take advantage of such things. So what do you do in a situation like that? We'll talk about that shortly. If you have any questions for us today, or maybe what we're talking about is a situation you had to go through, you can share your experiences with us on 20316 for SMS, WhatsApp number 0786316316. It is the Financial Clinic. Today we are focusing on what do you do when the breadwinner is incapacitated or they die. How do you handle a situation like that? We're hanging out with Pauline Wairimu, financial coach, and I have comments coming through. Liz Wambo, you say, I don't think it's wise to have one breadwinner. I find it dangerous when you only have one breadwinner, because in one way or the other, when that person passes on or they get sacked for and they're not working, it becomes a disaster. I have got Joyce in Uganda. You say, back in the day that was okay, because the cost of living was low and the society would generally take over if the unexpected happens. Nowadays, even 3 sources of income are not enough, leave alone one, and that makes life dangerous for a family. Dave in Lower Kabete, how are you doing? You say, I don't think there is one solution that fits all. A couple has to agree what works well for them. You say this COVID-19 pandemic has brought us to learn that it is advantageous to have more than one income stream. All said and done, quality of life and balance ought to guide the choices that we make. Dave in Lower Kabete, asante sana. Keep the SMSs coming through on 20316, WhatsApp 0786316316. So, Pauline, back to our discussion. Earlier on, I was mentioning there are times when the extended family comes in and they want to snatch the property. How do you handle situations like those? Especially if it is the man of the house who's passed on.
Okay, in that situation, remember you're grieving and you're in shock. So you're also not in a very good state of mind, right?
Yeah.
And all these things are going through you. The expectations are high. Wale walimu bado wako wajuaji. People will show up. Labda hata kuna mtu ataclaim huyu mtoto alikuwa wake and all that. So my take would be, please look for one person. There's one person you trust, or who who you can confide in. Let them take over and handle the situation. And this person might be your lawyer, might be a trusted family friend. Please be free to let them know what's happening, and together you guys can work out something.
Okay.
Because speed is of essence.
Very true.
Lazima ujichanue. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in the situation you've just described. And it's funny, I've still never understood why people behave like that after the person has passed on.
Yeah.
They say you get to know the person's true colors baadaye. So if you already find yourself in that situation, tafadhali tafuta mtu akusimamie, otherwise zitaenda vile unasema. Remember, you have children, maybe who are still going to school, and you must live. You must live on. Yeah. You're the ones who are now alive. It's painful, it's confusing, it's harsh, but you must really be sober in the midst of all this. And maybe that sounds very unemotional, you know, I sound harsh, but that is the reality.
Yes.
Tafuta mtu. And then you see sometimes even the person who's passed on, maybe your partner or whoever, that breadwinner, you know, the truth is maybe they also want truthful. Yani umegundua baadaye kumbe hata hizi pesa zilikuwa loan.
Yeah.
You know, so the truth is the bank will come for their money after you've finished, you know, after you've grieved and all that. So you're dealing with so many things at the same time. So it may not necessarily also be those relatives or those people who come for the things. It may even just be this partner or spouse who wasn't living, you know, the truth, and now umejipata hapo. So you have to forgive yourself and them because they are gone. Utamfanyia nini? Lakini you're the one who's alive.
Yeah.
You're the one we are looking up to. Yeah. So which also maybe brings me to this thought. If you haven't already found yourself in the situation we just described, so what should you do? Because you see, we are learning, right? Kama haujafanyikiwa, please think of estate planning. Estate planning is very, very important.
Yes.
What do I mean? You must have somebody who knows what you own, honestly, what you have. It's very important. It can be your mother, it can be a sister, it can be again your lawyer. You know, kuna mtu tuwezi sema hii dunia you don't trust anyone.
Yes.
You know, ati wetu uko tu kivyako, hapana. Na kama uko mtu wa hiyo type, jameni hata andika basi kakitu mahali, useme LR number hii. Pia kule nyumbani niko na hii, kwa account niko na bank hivi. I am a former banker and I'm so saddened that one time one of my clients almost died in hospital. Yeah, he had money in the account, but nobody could access it.
Okay.
His wife didn't know his PIN. Nobody knew which account, which bank. So, you know, you can accumulate so much, but to an extent that even you yourself, that money doesn't help you. So we need to trust that one person. Look for that one person.
Okay, I think that's very key and very important. So here I am. We've gone through what you've said. I've grieved. I've embraced. This is my reality. So what's the next step after that? Because life has to go on.
So the next step is so what options are available? I mean, what is your low hanging fruit? At the moment, you could start looking for employment. You might have to dispose some of those things if you're lucky that nobody has grabbed.
Yeah.
You might have to just make a 360-degree turn in your lifestyle completely, you know, and just start living afresh. Maybe this is like start on a clean slate. Kama alikuwa na madeni, uanze kujua vile mtalipa. Kama ni hiyo bank, you go and get a repayment plan. If it is your landlord, he used to pay rent, please talk and let them know that now you can't afford. But if they could allow you to have some time, maybe you live on deposit and then you'll relocate. You know, what are the options? So place them on the table. List them down. Tutafanyaje? In short, these are the options available. So ziweke hapo juu ya meza. And this part, I think for me, is what I call the actions that you will take.
Okay.
It will have to take you to do something. Lazima ufanye kitu. Start this or stop doing this.
Okay.
For you to be able to move on. Yeah.
And I think that's important, but sometimes it becomes challenging, especially, you know, you have marriages where the husband is the sole breadwinner and they do everything. Where finances are concerned, they are the ones who take action where everything is concerned. They are the ones who pay the bills. They are the ones who do this. So you find sometimes the wife has no idea. Apart from maybe the amount of money she's given to run the home, she has no idea about all these other things. You know, and now talking to those of us who have not found ourselves in that position, you know, I'm thinking as we listen to this conversation, we also need to pick out some things we need to start doing now, because no one ever thinks such a thing will happen to them, and then it happens, and then you are not prepared, and your family is left exposed, which becomes a sad reality for them.
So, wamama mtaamka. I'm one. Imagine you will need, Pastor, you will need to tell these mamas, I will need to tell my own fellow ladies,
yes.
Utajua account ya stima, na account ya maji, utajua account ya shule ya watoto.
Yeah.
I mean, just for FYI, sincerely speaking. But it also makes me think, if you find yourself in that situation, maybe communication hapo kidogo, iko na shida.
True.
Because I think two heads are better than one. So if you've been earning, honestly, I think it would be nice if then I sorted out the payments. But hey, yes, they're controlling husbands, as you said, or there's just this guy who's really, truly the head of the family.
Yeah.
So, question is, wewe kama mama or you the spouse? And you know, it can be either way.
It can be either way, yes.
Yes, it can be either way. Because you see, when it comes to finances, the person who earns more has the muscle, has the say. So we need to have, I think the key thing is to really start communicating about these things. And you know what's your reality? Ask each other, by then wakati hautakuwa ama wakati umesafiri, what happens? Do I have to keep calling you? Kama sahi niko kwa Zoom, msichana nipigie simu hapa aniambie mama, ama to prompt me, mama, watu wa Kanjo wako kwa mlango, they want to cut,
Yes.
Why should you find yourself in this situation? So let's empower each other, Pastor. Let's empower each other, honestly. And my friends and I think, we keep having this conversation. Kama umefika mahali hata sijui mahali unafanya kazi, because there are people who are like that.
Very true.
Hai, hapo kuna shida mahali. And my own experience is that one of my colleagues even retired at the age of 60, but didn't say, hakuambia bibi na watoto nyumbani. So for the next 3 months, imagine he continued coming to work every day with the wife. And I'm dropped to hapo kazini. Oh yes.
Alafu yeye anaenda wapi?
Anaingia gari, anasoma gazeti, anazurura town, jioni 5 tena wanakutana hapo kwa car park. So until one time she fell sick, and then she came to the office and said, nataka unitie Baba James, anipatie fungo ya gari. So the secretary said, Baba James retired 6 months ago. What do you mean?
Wow.
You want the key? Yes. So those are indications that kuna kashida mahali. Now, in such a scenario that I've described, trust me, if one of the spouses leaves, kitaumana. So tujirudie sisi wenyewe, tuongeange, tuzungumzange hizi vitu hata na watoto. At least let even your child know that the banks in this bank. Once in a while go with them. Once in a while ask him, where Jemo lipa stima ndio hii simu,
Yeah.
So it will ease things. And I know we are Africans.
Yeah, these things are hard because we were not cultured that way. My dad never went to me with a bank. In fact, I don't even know which bank my dad used to bank. Mr. Okumu, which bank do you use to? So sometimes it becomes hard for us to do that because we never saw it. We grew up in a world where the man was the breadwinner, and you didn't even know how much they earned. We rarely had conversations about money. That's just the way life was. And that's what we've adopted. But you're saying we must change that.
We must change that. Monkey see, monkey do. If you don't, that's what your child will do. That's what his child will do. And so the cycle continues. Some of these problems we can actually turn around.
Okay. If you're listening to us today or watching us today and you have a question, you have like 10 minutes to ask your question. Or rather, we have 10 more minutes. So you need to ask your question now. 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786316316. This morning on the Financial Clinic, we are hanging out with Pauline Wairimu, financial coach. We are talking about what happens when the breadwinner dies. How do you navigate from all that? Comments coming in, most of them really saying, we need to be prepared. We can no longer just be ignorant about our finances as a husband and wife. We need to have these conversations. We need to be prepared. So here we are. You looked at you know, you've grieved. You've looked at your reality. You need to make adjustments. You said this is now where this is what you call the action plan. Yes. What else do I need to do?
Yes, Pastor. So wacha turudi hapo kwa action,
Yeah.
way forward. You'll have to look at two things. What are the necessities? What must you really then be having to spend on? You know, because it's just about money. And then what are the non-essentials? So, for example, you may not really need to transfer the children to another school, you know, but you don't need the 4 cars. Na I'm assuming uko kwa ile you know, upper kwa pyramid uko huko juu.
Yeah.
But so whether it's about 4 cars or whether it's about transferring school or moving houses, wherever you are, separate those two. What are your real needs now and what are your wants? Because the equation will change. So ni ka give and take scenario.
Yeah.
Lakini wewe na familia yako ndio mtakubaliana. Kwa sababu tulisema pale mbele kuna walimu wengi sana.
Yes, very true. Yeah.
But you guys know what your reality is. And I'll take a good example. If you have a child who's a candidate or who's going to be a candidate next year, then it wouldn't be wise to disrupt that. You know, let them continue in the same environment. So that means you may have to continue paying for her in that school, but you can drive 1 car now, you know, or you can Uber, and maybe then you don't have to move houses until they're done. So check out what really is now your necessities and what isn't necessary.
Okay.
Tutoke hapo. Lazima ujipatie muda. Give yourself a timeline within which to do all these things.
Okay.
I mean, you can't stay in the same place forever. That's what I said. You need to give yourself a timeline. For how long am I going to sustain this? For how long am I going to stay where I am? You know, I need to move on. So jipe time. Give yourself a specific time to adjust to these changes. It's very psychological. It's very emotional.
Yes. And
you know, by the way, we're not, we agreed that we're also not just talking about death. You know, even losing a job.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that is grief in itself.
Yes.
Yeah. And in our current situations, I don't know if you're like me. I mean, there's so many things that are happening around us that you're not getting time to deal.
Yes.
You're just packing these things. As you're starting to help or grieve with Sister Nancy, Brother James, ndio huyo na message yake, ndugu Paul, you know, ndugu Paul, like that. So we're really not taking time to deal with these things. Tunazipack tu, na wakati itakuja zilipuke. You see, so you need to also in tandem with the reality, what's happening around. So give yourself a timeline. Lastly, tafadhali seek help. Seek help. You need counseling, see a counselor. You need a financial coach like me, reach out. Usiwe na aibu. Usiaibike. Yes. Usijipige sana. Because you see, as I've just said before, we're just having too much to deal with. We are forgetting about ourselves.
Yes.
And that's really not healthy. So seek help, reach out to your lawyer, to a trusted friend. You know, all these things always jua because they've never happened to you. It's now that they're happening. I mean, we've never been in a pandemic. Ama where you are in those days of bubonic plague. You know, none of us have been through this. Yeah, so seek help.
Okay. I'm just wondering, what about the other scenario, and I know we have a few minutes left, but maybe we can touch on it also, where the breadwinner is incapacitated because now maybe it's an accident and now they can't work, or maybe it's an illness that has put them down and they need constant care, because now this becomes like 2 burdens in one. Number one, he was the breadwinner, so source of income is not coming. Number two, he has got needs because of his situation and they require money, and that money is not coming in anyway. So how do you deal with that?
So in addition to what we've discussed, this is burden number 2,
yes,
as you've rightfully put it. So even this one, you need to handle. You need to know, from a medical perspective, what's the impact? What help can you get to either ease their pain? Because remember, then now you're sort of thrown into a caregiver scenario also.
Yes.
Now you as the caregiver also needs help. And we are very quick to just deal with the victim or the patient, and we forget about the caregiver. Remember, there's also children
yes,
who will be affected. Their dad used to work. Now he's in the house. Now it's only mommy who can do, or even if you didn't have children, it's an extra burden. You have to internalize and process all this. And seeking help, really, Pastor, I cannot overemphasize on that. You must really seek help from a medical perspective, from caregivers, from support, even from the former employer. What can they do? There are situations where you go there and say, mutaniandika kazi, tafadhali. Ama, please employ one of my children, because we need, life needs to go on. We need to eat, we need to meet the basic needs. So you don't usikufe nayo. Go out there and look for how this can be alleviated, because then you have 2 burdens.
I like that. I like that. Don't keep quiet. Don't be afraid to ask. Talk to people. I like that. I want to spin this thing back to the beginning and finish from there, because we are talking about, the question was, is it wise for a family to have one source of income, one breadwinner? And everybody's saying, in the times we're living, it is not wise. So what would you say to those couples who are there? Because I can guarantee you a good number of couples still live life that way, where there's only one breadwinner, and there's only one source of income. How can they begin to get out of that situation? What do they need to start doing or talking about to grow out of that situation?
Times have changed. That's the reality. My take is that it's no longer wise. I still go by that. You need to wake up and start with your low-lying fruits. What do you have in your hands? Even if it's not a formal something, honestly, you have hands, you have a brain, you can think, look out for opportunities. While your husband is out there hustling maybe a day job, what can you do when you're on your own? After children have gone to school. I mean, there's so many online opportunities where you can make money. You can volunteer your services in so many places, and not necessarily for a fee. But if you volunteer for free, you gain skills and you make an impact, the money will come. So we need to start with the low-lying fruits. Use what you have right now. What's your talent? Can you monetize it? Can it pay you? In fact, even if you're in a formal job, please look for extra streams of income. Right now, as we speak, start looking. COVID has taught us. And before, I used to tell my students, for an emergency kitty, you need 3 to 6 months backup. Now, 18 to 36 months.
Is that even possible?
Yes, it is. It is, Pastor.
How is that possible?
Start small and grow. Because you see the reality. See, we've been in this pandemic for a year, 2 months.
A year plus, yes.
So imagine if you only had a backup for 6 months. Yani by last year, September, mambo yako ingekuwa imeisha.
Backup, we keep hearing about this backup, and I keep wondering, is this really possible? I've only met one person who shared how she was able to do that. I was actually hosting her on the Financial Clinic, and she said how she quit her job and just took off for 1 year to think about what she wants to do with her life, because she was tired of her job and she wanted now to connect with something that she was passionate about. And so I asked her, 1 year ulikuwa unafanya nini? Weren't you paying rent? Weren't you eating? She said, no. I had saved up enough money to go for 1.5 years without a job. I've never had anybody else who's done that. So we keep hearing it, and sometimes I wonder, is it really practical or is it theory? Hiyo pesa mtu anaekaga wapi?
Hiyo pesa iko. You see, what our default setting is, money is for spending. That's what we were taught Hata shule ulikuwa ukiambiwa hii ni pocket money, ikiisha ambia bazaar nipigie. So by default we've been trained on our culture that money is for spending, but the financial people will tell you that first save before you spend. So if I happen to give you 100 bob today to buy yourself a cup of coffee, please take 20% of that money. That's only 20 shillings.
Yeah.
And keep it away. Now, keeping it away necessarily isn't stashes in a savings account. Multiply it. Because money is no good when it stays in the bank. It won't grow as much. You multiply it. So out of that 100, jua uko na 80 bob, not 100.
Yeah.
But you see, it takes discipline.
Very true.
It takes you to know what you want in life for you to only say you have 80 bob. Otherwise, you find yourself having a lot of month left after the money instead of the other way around. Because our default setting is to spend first before we save.
Yeah,
so
very true.
You need to change that. Again, it's about paradigm shift.
Okay.
COVID is the best teacher. Kama tu kusoma saizi, tutawai soma lini. So yes, and as I said, now it's 18 to 36 months backup. You have to try. Practice makes perfect. Otherwise kitatumania tu baadaye hata kama ulieka ya miezi 6. You know by now we've exhausted it.
Okay. Pauline, I'm out of time, but I'm grateful. Thank you for availing yourself for this conversation. I believe we have learned a thing or two. We will definitely call on you again as we continue having such conversations about our finances. Asante sana.
Asante, my pleasure. I've also enjoyed myself, and thank you for calling up on me.
Awesome.
I look forward to coming next time.
Awesome. Aya, mumesikia, my friends. Somebody here shared, let your wife know your PIN number, your account number. Hizi vitu zote ziekele kwa meza kila mtu ajue. You know, we are no longer living in the old days where you have to hide some of these things. Let's be open with one another and let's plan, because such things do happen. And if you had not planned, it's your family that ends up suffering. That's all the time we have for the Financial Clinic today. Have yourselves a lovely day.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.